Good morning, dear learners. In today's lecture, we are going to see about Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream. I Have a Dream was originally a speech delivered on 28th April 1963 during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. He gave the speech at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Let's say something about Martin Luther King first. Martin Luther King is an American Baptist minister, activist, and humanitarian. He is best known for his role in advancement of civil rights using a non-violent civil disobedience. As we have Gandhiji here, they have Martin Luther King in America. He is one of the greatest orators in American history. The most important thing is he has received the Nobel Prize for combating racial inequality through nonviolence, and he has received the Nobel Prize on October 14, 1964. Let's see the background of this prose. The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom was partly intended to demonstrate a mass support for the civil rights legalization proposed by President Kennedy in June. And later, Martin Luther King and other leaders therefore agreed to keep their speeches calm, also to avoid provoking the civil disobedience which had become the hallmark of civil rights movement. Okay, we'll move to the prose now. This particular speech, as I have already stated, this particular speech was delivered in the Lincoln Memorial, Washington, D.C. Luther expresses his notorious hope for America and the need for change. He opens the speech by stating how happy he is to be with the marchers and emphasizes the historical significance of their march by calling it the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of America. Then he points out powerfully by recalling the memories to those famous words of Abraham Lincoln in his Emancipation Proclamation that declares all slaves forever free. He remembers the words of Lincoln here, stating to the marcher that he has already stated, that is, Lincoln has already stated that slaves will be forever free. But the real condition in America now is not so. King then comes to the problems faced by American, particularly African American at present, saying that 100 years later they are not free still. Instead, they are terribly crippled by the chains of discrimination and segregation. So there is a high segregation and discrimination on the basis of color and race. That is the problem there, and Lincoln is pointing out that. Then he talks about the founders of the nation who wrote the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. He brings the constitution and backbone of the nation into this play and tells that his people are come to cash a check. So he is now using a metaphor that cashing a check. That metaphor is he is using to show us that how his people, that is particularly the African Americans, are being terribly under the chains of discrimination. In order to make it clear, he is using a metaphor, cashing a check. So we'll see how he is elaborating that. The check is written for the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness to the citizen of nation, which includes the black man as well as the white. So the constitution, the rights of climbing for life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is for all the people, that is for the black as well as to the white. But He states that America defaulted on that check where black citizens are concerned by denying them those rights. So the rule is for everybody. It was written in the declaration, and it was declared. Sorry, it was written on the constitution. But when a black man go and approaches for claiming that particular right, it was denied to the black. But for the white, he is accepting and he is enjoying all this constitutional rights. America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. So King then points out the urgency in their case, this particular case. King then cautions his people not to commit any wrongful deeds. He says, "Let us seek are thirsty of freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatredness." So, we have to fight, we have to climb that check, but in non-violence. We are not supposed to go and to achieve this victory by violence. Then he wants his protesters to follow non-violence for this noble cause. Then he proved that the real legal change could be made without resorting to violence. He is insisting non-violence in all his deeds. Then comes the most famous part of this speech, for which it is titled, "I Have a Dream." So he has stated all these things, and he has stated what the past state and the constitutional rights for black, and then he is expressing his real dream to America. So King says his dream is deeply rooted in the American dream. His reinforces the protesters' rights to equality in America. He says he dreams in which blacks and whites can sit down and break bread together as brothers and sisters. So this is his dream, that he claims that the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. This is his dream, a dream Luther King's own children will not be judged by their skin color, but for the character they exhibit. He begins the next session by mentioning mountainsides throughout the country, repeating, "Let freedom ring everywhere." So King closes with words from an old Negro spiritual, looking toward the day when people, every creed and color, can join together and sing, "Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last." So with the hope of optimistic thought, Martin Luther King ends his prose. In the first part, he has documented what the country has give the rules and regulations, and the constitution has the liberty to give equality to everybody. He is stating that, and at the last point he is coming to his dream. One day everybody will be treated on the basis of their character, not on the basis of their color. And at last he ends the he ends the prose with optimistic note that one day every people, the Negro and the American, will be treated equally. Hope you like this class. We'll see in the next class with a new prose. Thank you.